What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the BS Show. And in the words of the great Bruce Buffer, it is time for our first big fight of 2021. We got Max Holloway fighting Calvin Kattar this Saturday, which is January 16th. This fight has been circled on my calendar for a long, long time. Number one, I'm a huge Max Holloway fan, and I'm a huge Calvin Kattar fan. I like watching both of these guys fight. I think they're both class acts. I think they're both great dudes, both in the octagon and outside the octagon. They're really, really hard to root against. So with that being said, I think this is going to be a great fight, not only because they're great dudes, but they both bring it. And when they are in that octagon and that octagon door closes, these two dudes will throw it down. They will absolutely get after it, go after their opponent, put on lots of pressure, and they will not stop until that final bell sounds. So we got Max Holloway, who really needs no introduction. A lot of people consider him the greatest featherweight of all time, which was overtaking Jose Aldo when everyone thought he was the greatest featherweight of all time, simply because he beat the guy twice. He beat him back-to-back. Not only did he beat Jose Aldo back-to-back, he TKO'd him back-to-back. He also beat the ever-living crap out of Brian Ortega. And then he moved up for that lightweight belt, and he ended up losing to Dustin Poirier. But Max Holloway is an absolute killer. He is a killer, and he is looking for revenge. He's coming off of a loss to Alexander Volkanovski, which he lost in a split decision in July of 2020. To be completely honest with you guys, I think Max Holloway won that fight. There's a lot of people that thought Max Holloway won that fight, but you know what? The decision went to Alexander Volkanovski, so the hat's off to Volkanovski. That was a rematch fight that Holloway lost, so it's really tough when you lose to somebody to fight him again. Your opponent knows you, they're familiar with you, so hats off to Holloway. He's jumping right back in it against an absolute killer and a top 10 opponent in Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar is coming off back-to-back wins. He's beaten Danny Ige. He also beat Jeremy Stevenson via TKO with some like crazy elbows back in May of last year, 2020. And Calvin Kattar has just been on a tear. He's had 2 losses in his last 6 or 7 fights. One of them was to Renato Moicano. That's when Moicano was running through people. He's fallen off since then. And his second loss in his last 6 or 7 fights was to Zabit Magomed Sharipov, however you say his name. I call him Zabit, but everybody knows Zabit. Everybody knows Zabit's a stud. A lot of people have him as the next best thing. So neither one of these guys have a bad loss on their resume. They've actually both beaten a ton of high-caliber fighters, especially Max Holloway. Max Holloway has beaten guys like Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega, like I said, Jose Aldo twice. He's beaten Charles Oliveira, Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, Anthony Pettis, Ricardo Lamas. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I think Max Holloway is going to do fine. Just because he lost his belt does not mean he's out of it. It does not mean he's not going to get back to that strap. Maybe he's just got to take the scenic route to get back. But as I said with Calvin Kattar, he's got wins over Danny Ige, Jeremy Stevens, Ricardo Lamas, Shane Burgos, Andre Fili. So he's got some very, very quality wins, but just not quite the resume that a guy like Max Holloway has. So in this fight, I'm going to have to chalk it up to experience to Max Holloway. I'm not going to do a fight pick. I'm just going to go off what my gut tells me. And my gut tells me Max Holloway's been there. He's fought the top-tier fighters. He's been in multiple championship fights, and the dude can straight up scrap. Not taking anything away from Calvin Kattar at all. But Max Holloway has this really good ability to put on lots of pressure, and he can hit and not get hit. He can keep people right at distance, right outside of their striking distance, but inside his, and that's when he maximizes his damage. We all seen that in that fight against Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega was coming up and just murdering dudes. Max Holloway beat him to a pulp. Brian Ortega lost via doctor stoppage, but that's what Max Holloway does. He's just really, really good at keeping people at bay. Now, the crazy thing here is Calvin Kattar actually has, I believe, a 3-inch reach advantage. They're the same height, but Kattar has a little bit of a reach advantage. So one would assume Kattar can maybe do a little bit better than other people at keeping Max Holloway at bay. So let me know what you guys think of this fight. I'm super pumped. Let me know in the comments below who you got winning, and thank you for tuning in.